Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast in which we explore the films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, 1 minute at a time. In this, our 5th season, we are looking at Joe Johnston's 2011 film, Captain America, The First Avenger. I'm Andy Nelson from the True Story FM Entertainment Podcast Network.
And I'm Pete Wright, and today, I'm sad.
Today we are talking about Minute 109, which begins with recognition of Steve's sacrifice and ends with celebration for VE Day. Back on the show, it is Heidi Bennett. Hello, Heidi.
Greetings from Oakland, California.
All the way from Oakland. All right. We're starting with sad times still. Yeah, even Colonel Phillips is sad. He lowers his head and he walks out of the room.
Lowers his head from his position in the corner while watching surreptitiously like a creep. Sad creep. Don't absolve him of being a creep.
Well, this is him basically writing him off. Oh, hell, I thought he'd figure something out, but that program was doomed from the start.
That's a picture wrap on creepy Colonel.
It's not a picture wrap. It's not a picture wrap.
Right.
Shh.
That's right. Shh. I don't know. I'm
So
only
far-
watching this minute 1 minute at a time.
We did have a picture wrap the other day on Hugo Weaving. We should have called it out, although we did talk about it quite a bit.
You're right.
So. All right. Final thoughts on the sad bit here. I mean, this is a very sad moment here as Colonel Phillips. And then, I mean, this is Hayley Atwell at her peak sadness as she calls out again.
Steve.
And then weeps in the control room all alone. As you said last time, Pete, everybody has cleared out.
Yeah. Everybody.
Just Peggy in the control room. All hope is lost.
I have no thoughts on Peggy.
I mean, she's good.
I mean, apart from the fact that I'm really sad for her. Okay.
Yeah.
But,
No, she does a great job. She does a great job performing here. So I have a question for both of you. I'm just curious your thoughts on kind of these sorts of movies that have a tragic romance that end where our two lovers aren't together. Do you have any favorites? Do you have any that stand out to you?
wow.
I mean, I guess Casablanca is the obvious choice, right? I mean, that's the one that just kind of comes to mind, right? To me.
Yeah, and that one seems like the most 40s inspiration for Joe Johnston to have kind of pulled from in so many capacities. Any others? Like, what else stands out?
Wow. Like, I don't know. What are some of the other movies we've talked about? Like 500 Days of Summer, they don't end up together, right?
Yeah, I think...
La La Land, nobody likes that. I think I'm the only one who likes that movie anymore.
La La Land, she ends up with the drummer from The Wonders.
Right.
So, to me, that's a plus.
It's always the drummer. Come on.
Well, thinking of things like, the sorts of movies where there is where somebody dies, where there's a romance and they die, like things like The Notebook, which I know it's a romance, and then it follows them all the way into old age. But obviously
Leaving
there's
Las
a very
Vegas.
tragic element to that. Jeez.
Lord have mercy.
Wow.
If you're afraid of the answer, don't ask the question.
What a romantic film. Yes. Oh, I love watching Nicolas Cage drink himself to death.
Oh, my lordy.
Forrest Gump. Okay, there's another one. You've got Forrest and Jenny, and she gets AIDS and dies. And, that is very sad. And we have the survivor crying over the loss of their loved one at the end of the film.
Yeah. Okay.
Without going film by film, you just rattled off a bunch of films that I either haven't seen or never wanted to see, or like I'm not really a romantic film, or I like romance in certain, and it works in this film for me, but like a lot of those movies I've never seen. I have seen the Leaving Las Vegas once. Yeah, and I think, to me too, the difference in this one is as I started watching the Marvel movies, along with my husband Brian, he's like, nobody ever dies in these movies, really, and then when we got to the final two of ending the Infinity War, that whole thing, the first of those two movies, when a bunch of people got dusted, I was like, it was so funny. He and I actually got in a very rare, I wouldn't even call it an argument, just sort of a reaction argument where he was like, all those people are gone now. And I was like, no, they're not. And I was like, it doesn't make sense for them to be gone because the people that are left behind, a lot of those are the people where these are going to be their last movies. So they're probably going to be gone the next movie, so I'm like thinking in like filmmaking.
Yeah, your producer's
economy of character preservation. Yeah.
Who are the older people who are, said, I'm not going to do many more of these or whatever. And I'm like, so that just makes no sense. And Brian's like, no, they're gone. And I'm like, but they can't be. And I was like, but didn't you say like nobody really dies in the, in the Marvel universe? And so we kind of came to that as like, well, nobody really seems to die. So I think there's also like, this is romantic and beautiful, but I also know that it's not the end. So it was moving because they're good actors with great chemistry, but I didn't think like, well, that's it. We're not going to see any of these folks again.
Yeah, it's not like Rose just let go of Jack at the end of Titanic. Who's king of the world now, kiddo?
Well, yeah.
Now that I have problems with, him not being able to be held on by her or pulled up by her or whatever.
Yeah, I know. Well, there you go. There's another example like this one. Like, they had options.
For sure.
We're going to do Titanic by minute just so you can air your
just so I can complain about that 1 minute. Oh, no.
What I really want to do is like, since, earlier in this week, we're seeing that the Tesseract was, being the alien acid blood, right, and going through the whole of the plane, is that can this plane and Captain America become the alien somehow in John Carpenter's The Thing? Like that's what I'd like to see be the next.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a crossover.
Yeah.
That
I like it.
Unspoken crossover that
yeah.
Maybe their ships crash next to each other, and Chris and Steve has been the Thing through the entire franchise.
Yes, that's what I want.
Okay, I like
that's
it.
dark, man.
Like it.
I'm planting
so
that
it's Steve's
seed.
head.
Okay, so a few more came to mind while we were chatting. Obviously, Titanic, which Pete referenced, but two others that I think are great representations of tragic romances: Brokeback Mountain and A Star Is Born. I think both of those have a lot of the feels that you get in this sort of story when there is a tragedy that befalls one of the partners, and and they're left alone. And I think. I think that is one of the strengths of this film is this moment, and like what we've been talking about. As much as I have issues with Steve's foolhardy decisions and his rapid decision making that may not have had as much thought put into it as it should have, I still find a lot of the emotional arc of these two characters here, and I find that it does work, and I really give the film credit and the whole team for building this moment to have the emotional resonance that it does.
Well, I'm glad to see that you have some warmth in that cold, dark place where your heart used to be.
Well, like you said, I keep my little romantic guy locked in a box and have to let him out once in a while. But okay, so to your point though, Pete, I think yesterday or the day before, you talked about the wreckage that we have, and wouldn't it be nice to have it look a little more wrecked? The angle that Steve was coming in at, it looked like it was going to just crash right in. It seems to somehow have skidded up a little bit. And I mean, this ties into what we see at the very beginning of the film. Pete, we talked about this a bit because the angle of the wing was sticking up. Now we actually see it break, so we know that, it's actually broken. But it's kind of setting us up for, okay, there's this plane. For some reason, Steve is completely incapacitated and frozen awfully quickly to wait 66 years. I'll have to buy into all that because it's just the plot that needs to happen in a Marvel film. But and then I guess, I mean, it's not buried, but I guess in context of what we see at the beginning of the film, does it make sense? Like, I mean, it's not that deep in the snow. Like, it's in 66 years, the amount of ice cover over it, you think that works?
I think it does, because I think they're setting it up in that final scene before it cuts to Britain, that it's still sinking, like it's hot and it feels like it's continually melting into the ice.
It's
like that makes sense to me.
tesseracting into the ice.
Oh, okay. So this is the Tesseract power that was left in the plane.
The Tesseract, what you don't know is the Tesseract fell, and then because it stayed parallel with the plane actually landed on it. And it's right below it is where it is. You don't know that.
That's right.
We know that.
Oh, of course.
It caused it to draw it down into the ice. Also, it first landed on soft powder and then started to sink. That's why it didn't break up more. I'm trying to help you, man. Like I feel like I did ask myself that question.
There is a lot of debris, though.
Yeah.
As we're seeing it, there is quite a bit of debris, but it does look like a whole plane has landed.
Yeah, right.
It looks like it grinded ground. It grinded the ground. It ground the ground. It made quite a track. Let's say. There's
Good cover. All this stays in.
I buy that something this big kind of hit the ground and skidded for quite a ways. And, I think that it works. I like the way that it plays. Obviously, it is setting us up for the whole thing. And we don't see him. I think actually in the script, I think there is some cuts to Steve. I have to check right now because I actually think we see him where... Oh, no, that's actually in tomorrow's minute. Never mind. I'll come back to that because there's more when Howard is searching. We actually cut to Steve. So I'll talk about that tomorrow because here we don't see Steve. In fact, we won't see him again in the 40s. But what we do is we switch over to Trafalgar Square, and now it is VE Day. Technically, it's the day after VE Day. It's May 9th, 1945. VE Day is May 8th. And we have the newspapers to say, hey, this is what happened. It is over. We have planes flying overhead. We see a very famous cover of the Daily Mirror. They did a pretty fair job of recreating this particular newspaper from VE Day. And actually, it might actually be May 8th. I'm trying to see it's so tiny that I can't tell. It is Tuesday.
Yeah, I can't see it.
VE Day is Tuesday, May 8th, 1945. So that is the day. So this paper must have been a morning edition or a late afternoon edition or something like that had come out. VE Day is Victory in Europe Day. This is the day that the Allies accepted Germany's unconditional surrender of their armed forces, and it marked the end of World War II in Europe. And yeah, like I said, this newspaper, the Daily Mirror, which we kind of laughed about last time, but they largely were an okay paper until what's his name?
Murdoch.
Murdoch or Morgan.
Right.
Took over.
They've had some more recent issues in credibility.
Oh yeah. I think it was about the mid 90s when suddenly nobody took them seriously anymore.
Right.
But yeah, this paper, VE Day, it's over in Europe. 3 p.m. announcement will clinch it. Today is VE Day, the day for which the British people have fought and endured 5 years, 8 months, and 4 days of war. How does this play? Obviously we're jumping from February to May now. Do you like this transition? Do you like the way that it plays to kind of shift us into kind of moving the story out of where we had been into kind of the final part of it? Do you like this transition here?
I do. I feel like this allows us to move very quickly through these last couple of minutes and get us caught up, because that's what we need to be at the end. By the time we hit the post-credit scene, we need to be caught up. And so, yeah, it totally works for me because it also demonstrates that life goes on for the people who have, there's all the celebration, sure, but also for, eventually we're going to see that the Colonel and Peggy, they're still at work, and Howard, he's definitely still at work. He's doing stuff, and that's important.
What about you, Heidi?
Yeah, works for me. I'll just say ditto.
Well, so here's a question. Do you think people know about what Captain America did? Like, do you think that all of this is out in the public as far as the stuff with Hydra, or do you feel like all of that element is kind of undercover and really all people think about Captain America is that he helped stop the Nazis? Any sense?
Yeah, my sense is that people don't. What you just said is my sense, that they just think he helped.
So nobody probably knows that he, saved New York.
No, I definitely don't think anybody knows he saved New York.
Well, this goes, okay, so Heidi, here's another question that we've been debating over the course of this. Do you think the public knows that Captain America is a super soldier? Or do you think that he is this movie actor who did these stage shows where they had these motorcycles on wires to make him look like he was super strong, and that he's over there to kind of act like the hero to inspire troops? Do you feel like that's the pitch to the American people, or do you think that they've actually revealed that he's a super soldier?
I wouldn't think that they would have revealed him to be a super soldier, because that serum is such a coveted, potential weapon, obviously. But that seems like the kind of thing there would be no reason, no benefit of letting people know about that.
Well, because we had some debates with people about like that, particularly in the musical montage where Steve is on the stage holding up a motorbike and he's got the three dancers up on top of it, where some people see that as, oh, they have revealed to the American public that he is super strong. But I was always like, well, it doesn't seem super clear in the movie, and it could just be stage tricks. And but I mean, it's been quite a bit of disagreement about that. So it sounds like you're on my side, is what I'm saying.
I mean, without having, I didn't go and rewatch this minute by minute with that question in mind.
Sure.
So my gut answer is that I agree with that, because it just seems like it would make sense to not, as I said, not reveal that serum is something that exists.
Right.
So now it's canon. All those present say aye, and now everybody here agrees, and all those past episodes of argument have been discarded from the record.
Exactly what I was looking for. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you so much. Okay. Have either of you ever been to Trafalgar Square?
No.
I haven't either. I've never stepped foot outside of an airport when I've gone to London.
That's my issue too. I'm a big Heathrow guy. Big Heathrow energy.
That's about it. I love the look of it. I think it's a really cool space. Trafalgar Square is a public square in Westminster, and it was laid out in the early 19th century around the area formerly known as Charing Cross, which I had also heard of. I didn't realize that it was all kind of the same thing. And there's a big statue of Admiral Nelson in the middle of it, commemorating the victory at the Battle of Trafalgar, which had been in 1805. And it's a neat, big public space, and it's actually been in a lot of movies, which I also didn't realize, such as Casino Royale, and also in the TV show The Avengers, and Doctor Who, and The Ipcris File.
I think, like, if there's a movie set in London, it probably has a sweeping shot through Trafalgar Square. I just think, like, there's that crane shot in 28 Days Later, where everything is like, that's the one that strikes me, where it's completely empty. I
was going to mention in the next minute that, are you all watching by chance The Peripheral?
I love it so much.
I'm not. My wife has started it, but I haven't.
Okay.
Picked it up.
Yeah, because that part of it's in London, right?
Yeah, it's sorta.
Sorta, right? Like
heavily futurized.
But it also stars one of our guys here that's in that's toasting in the next minute. That's part of the team.
Oh, right! Holy cow! Okay,
Yeah,
well, I'm going to hold my breath on that one then for sure.
We'll save that. That's exciting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that's another place, and I just got an invitation in my email to interview one of the craft team from that. So maybe I'll be able to
cool.
score something talking with somebody from behind that. But yeah, that show is incredible.
Yeah, it's great.
So that just made me think of it because of that location and also the actor, which I don't have his name pulled up, but we can remedy that in our next episode.
That's absolutely true. Absolutely true. Well, so that's where we are. We're celebrating. We've moved past the tragedy of our story. We're into the celebration as the war has ended, and we see all of the extras in England have all come together to unite in a period moment in all their 40s garb. I like to think that all these extras just have, what period am I playing today? Okay, yeah, I'll be there. And they all just show up in their 40s garb to wave
their
their
gold
little
blimey
flags.
soldier suits.
Did you say they're old blimey soldier suits?
Yeah, gold blimey. Right.
That's exactly what they are.
Yeah, and so I think I love it because these are the appropriate trappings of victory, and I think it's important to have all this kind of celebration over what we see coming, which is just like, also people are sad because what Captain America is lost in Captain America is like representative of all that is lost in the war. And I think to me, that's the message of these 2 minutes, at least, that we have this grand victory, but we lost something really important. And in the image of this one guy is the loss of war to civilization, right? And that's what, like, he is representative of a much larger sense of grief. And I think they nailed it with all the right symbols and signs and flags and that it's a Captain America movie and all the flags in these last 2 minutes are Union Jack. And I think that's kind of cool too.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting perspective that we're not in, for example, New York, right?
Right.
Which, I mean, to a certain extent, I suppose would make sense in a story about Steve, who is from Brooklyn, where we would have people there celebrating the end of the war. And they could have certainly done that, much like the end of, the revised version of Return of the Jedi, where we're jumping all over the place and seeing all these different celebrations. But it is very specifically just London. We're just here for VE Day. And yeah, that's actually an interesting perspective. I hadn't really thought about that before, but yeah, we don't see anything but London here.
Right. Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on that, Heidi? Do you feel like we should have also seen New York, or do you like just seeing here?
Sorry, I feel like for some of these pointed questions, I'm just like, yeah, that's fine. It's not that I'm not interested. It just, I don't have any, profound additions of information. Like, yeah, I like this. This is great. And also, like, I feel like for, going to the movies and seeing something called Captain America, it's nice to just be exposed to different, they're not so different, but just different cultures, different perspectives, what's happening in other countries. And
also, it would have been weird to go all over the world because everybody that we have here is in, like, I think they're British, like they're in it's the British team. It's right. I mean, that's where our guys.
Well, we could see Senator Brandt celebrating or something,
with the
if
Ewoks.
There's one other person that could have been included.
Did you say with the Ewoks?
Yeah, Senator Brandt's dancing with the Ewoks.
I need somebody to put that together now. That's just fantastic. All right, well, let's wrap this up. We're going to do more celebrating and more memorializing in tomorrow's minute, wrapping up the week. So Heidi, thank you so much. And once again, tell everybody where they can tune in to what you're up to out there.
So on YouTube, if you want to check out Vibrant Visionaries Network, I have some really fun tours of vintage cookbooks. Like for Halloween, I did Vincent Price and his wife at the time, Mary Price. They did a lot of traveling and collecting of art and recipes. So they put together a fun cookbook. So I have Vincent Price cookbook look on there. So if you're into, vintage cookbooks, and then like I mentioned before, just fun, easy recipes. I also have interviews on there with, different creatives like Selene Luna, who's an activist and actor, and you'll probably recognize her. She's also, she's been in the recent season of the television show Mayans as a character, recurring recent character. The producer of the There's Something in the Dirt, the film that's at least out right now as we're recording this, David Lawson, who has he's the producer for Benson and Moorhead, their films, and they also worked on Moon Knight. They were a couple of the directors from that. So I have an interview with him on the podcast and on YouTube. The YouTube version of it is extra fun just because he's a very animated, fun person. So David Lawson, indie film producer on there. So yeah, all that stuff at Vibrant Visionaries Network on YouTube.
Check that out, everybody. Lots of great material, lots out there. So we will be back tomorrow to talk about Minute 110. Pete, thanks as always.
Yub yub, everybody. Yub yub.
Until next time, true believers.
Marvel Movie Minute is a production of True Story FM. Engineering by Andy Nelson. This season's music is Spread the News by Anthony Vega, and this season's show art is by Winston Yabo. Find the show at truestory.fm, and if your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, consider doing that for this show.